So we are going to start by making the pudding because it needs to be chilled. These are all of the ingredients you're going to need. Canned coconut milk, not coconut cream, coconut milk. And this is matcha powder. It is basically powdered, ground up green tea. It is expensive, but well worth it. I always have some in my pantry. As you can see, it is green, naturally. And then we also have cornstarch. This is a cornstarch pudding. It is thickened with cornstarch. It also is sweetened with sugar and just a little tiny bit of salt to bring out the natural flavors. You'll need a pot on a stovetop, and you will also need a kettle of boiling water. So you start with the matcha powder in the bottom of the pot, and I like to add the sugar at this point because then you're going to add salt and then after that, boiling water. So I do this step because if you just try to add the green tea powder to the coconut milk when it's all cold, it does not incorporate. It's kind of like cocoa powder that way. So if you whisk it in the boiling water, it's about 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons of boiling water. That just really helps everything incorporate. I have that pot on low-medium heat on the stove as well. What I'm doing here is I am adding a little bit of coconut milk to that cornstarch, and I am stirring it thoroughly until no lumps remain. If you don't do this in advance, and if you just put the cornstarch in the boiling coconut milk, you're going to make dumplings, so do this step in advance. And then keep that mixture stirring over medium heat until everything is dissolved. And then I like to add my coconut milk a little tiny bit at the start, again, just so it helps everything incorporate so much easier. And then add the rest of it after that and stir to incorporate. So in case you haven't figured it out by now, this pudding is vegan. It is vegan coconut milk, and I think it works better with coconut milk, honestly, than with cow's milk, and it has a really nice flavor. And now I am adding in the slurry, the cornstarch coconut milk slurry. Ideally, I'd be pouring the slurry in slowly with one hand while whisking furiously with the other, but I am holding a camera in one of my hands, so I can't do that. But, add it a little at a time just before it's simmering. And gradually you'll see it thicken more and more. You want to bring it to a gentle boil for about 1 minute. And as you can see, this is, about 30 seconds after I've stirred it in. It hasn't come to a boil yet, and it's a saucy consistency. It's kind of like a thin gravy at this point. But you want to keep cooking it, keep whisking it like crazy so it doesn't turn into dumplings. And you can see it thickening before your very eyes. The whisk is starting to leave little trails in there. This is after another minute. It still hasn't quite come to the boil at this point, but it is very close. It would boil and bubble if I were not stirring it at the moment. After it has boiled for about a minute, gently, you want to, I usually skip this step to be honest, but if you want to really ensure a smooth pudding, strain it into a nice Pyrex dish like this. Just make sure it's nice and smooth. And then after it has cooled off enough, you can pour it into 2 glasses. If you use heat-proof glasses, of course you can pour it immediately, and that's probably better, but these are not heat-proof glasses. I don't have heat-proof fancy dessert glasses, so I'm just using drinking glasses. Now for the sushi, this is bamboo rice. It is green. It is naturally green colored. So it's not the rice itself that's naturally green colored. That is actually short grain white rice that has been injected with bamboo juice. That is what is making it green. And there it is. I got it from the bulk section at Winco, so that's why I just have this tiny amount in a little plastic bag. And I am cooking it the way I cook rice. Your methods may differ. I have a cheap apartment electric stove, so what I do is I add about 3/4 of the water at the start. While I bring it to the boil, I add the salt, I stir it around, and as you can see that bamboo juice is already starting to come out and turning the water green. It's just a neat product. It's a good way of putting vegetables into your food without needing to add vegetables. And then once it boils, I add the rest of the water cold. That will immediately bring down the temperature, and I stir it in, and then I cover it, and then I lower the heat. This way it won't boil over. If you don't do that, cheap electric stoves take forever to cool down. And now for the insides of the sushi. While my rice is cooking, I happen to have this cilantro and it's green, so I'm going to use it. Also an avocado, and I love avocados. And usually you put rice vinegar in your sushi rice, but limes are green, so I'm gonna use limes instead, and it'll give it a nice flavor. Cucumber, another classic. And then the sushi nori, it's actually kind of more like blackish purple because it oxidized quite a bit. It's old, but seaweed is green aesthetically. Also, edamame is a traditional side, and it happens to be green, so we're gonna have some edamame too. Now everything is prepped. Got my lime cut up. And once the rice is cooked, sometimes the color is patchy like that. That's pretty normal. I'm only going to use about a third of this pot of rice because I'm only making one sushi roll. I'll use the rest of the rice for something else later. So I'm just separating out a third of that pot, and I'm adding the juice of only about half of that lime. Ordinarily, you'd add salt and sugar as well, but I decided not to. And just stir to incorporate. And you got your seasoned sushi rice that is green naturally. It really has a nice, subtle, delightful flavor to it. I have my nori sheet on the bamboo roller, and I'm putting my still warm rice on there. You don't want to do this with cold rice. And just spread it out with a spoon, leaving about an inch, a little more than an inch actually, exposed at the bottom and an inch exposed at the top. I'm just lining up my cucumbers. I've cut them pretty much to be exactly the length of it, and then avocados are always a little more difficult to place in there, but do your best. I like mine with a lot of avocado in it. It's just so creamy and good with the vinegary rice. And then this is the part, I am not a sushi chef. I am not a master at this. And the first few times you do this, you're going to suck at it, but just keep practicing. Really push and push and push and keep pushing those insides of that sushi as you keep rolling, and squeeze while you're rolling. I didn't actually squeeze enough as I was rolling this. You'll see later, my sushi's a little bit loose. The insides kind of fall out a little bit, so squeeze as you roll. And once you get your little roll, you can squeeze it a little more on the outside, and then cut it with a really, really nice sharp knife. It works even better if you clean your knife off in warm water every 1 to 3 slices. I didn't really care so much, so I just kind of kept cutting. My knife was pretty sharp anyway. And there's beautiful green sushi with some cilantro for garnish. And what green meal would be complete without green tea? This is actually genmaicha, which is brown rice tea, so those little brown bits are toasted brown rice. It's delicious. And behold, it's Japanesey, vegan-y, greeny goodness.